Hello, everybody. This is Diana, and this is my Trailblazers of the Universe podcast. Some of you might know me from my Trailblazers of the Universe YouTube channel, where I help you fearlessly and unapologetically live your best, most authentic life. The focus of this podcast is going to be bridging self-improvement, spirituality, and emotional healing, but it's not limited to just those topics. Today's topic is going to be being an alchemist of your life. So what does that mean, being an alchemist? Basically, making the most out of a bad situation, making the most out of whatever life throws at you. This is how I've really become successful and improved my life, and also I'm talking about transmuting emotions. And well, first of all, let's back up here. What are emotions? They are just energy in motion. So, energy just wants to be expressed, right? It wants to be released. So I use that concept to transmute emotions that you would consider as negative or unpleasant. I learned to transmute them into something positive to empower me instead. And I'll explain a little bit in this podcast on how I do that exactly. We just have to remember that life has ups and downs. It has ebbs and flows. Basically, it is what you make of it. So instead of being a victim like we're taught in society to be, instead of letting it ruin us, we could actually let these experiences build us and make us stronger instead. And I think what really helps is to stop labeling. We label as something as good or bad. And I know in society, basically we define everything with labels. But remember, when you label something, your label is your limitation, right? So it's just like a rainy day, right? A rainy day, it's neither good or bad. It's neutral. It is what you make of it. There's some people that will say, oh, I feel gloomy. It's a rainy day. I can't do what I want to do. And then there's some people that will look at a rainy day and say, oh, this is just what I needed. I can rest on this day. I can maybe step outside and feel the cold rain underneath my feet. Sometimes if you like to go walk in puddles and stuff, right? Or it feels refreshing. Oh, it's been hot all this week. For someone that lived in the desert, right? For them, it's been hot all that week, and now it's refreshing. They get the rain, they get the balance, right? For some people, it might have the opposite experience. There's like anything that happens in your life, really. Remember before when I had a car that had broken down, right? And of course, I was all upset. Oh, I have to make another car payment. I have to pay, car insurance. Go look for a car. It was all stressful. But then I got a new and better car, right? That worked out better for me. And what do I want to focus on? The fact that I totaled my old car that was old anyway, or hey, I got this new car, I had a fresh start, and this car will be better for me anyway, right? That's just an example. There are some people that can find beauty in even the darkest places. That's another example of an alchemist, right? They say, another quote they say is, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? That's another kind of a different perspective on it. How, or someone can turn something maybe not so pleasant to something good, right? Something not so desirable to something desirable. Even being an artist transmutes, right? Or I don't say artist transmutes, but an artist is an alchemist, right? Sometimes they can even turn just random objects and even trash, right, into a piece of art, or stuff that people would throw away, right, into a piece of art. There's even dancers. A lot of times dancers use a lot of emotions when they dance, or even singers, right? Or even people who make mixes, right? DJs and stuff. Sometimes they're able to be an alchemist, right? They can mix different beats, different rhythms. They can put different songs and make it into a symphony, right? Or I don't know if symphony is the right word. We are creative beings. We are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. We are multidimensional. So anything that happens in your life, you can take it and make it into whatever you want. For me, for example, so I went through addiction, some really negative emotions. I struggled with mental health a lot for a while. I had toxic relationships. I had a lot of deep inner turmoil. I was always battling myself. My anxiety was bad. Every day I wake up with anxiety. Before I was doing my content creation, I had a period in my life, a long period in my life. I want to say I had a dark night of the soul, where basically everything falls apart that's not in alignment with where life's supposed to go, right? and everything fell apart. I'm talking about jobs. I was struggling with drug addiction. Toxic relationship fell apart. I had issues with my family, having issues with just everything, my mental health. A lot of it was I was not happy in my own body. I was not happy in my own head. It was a very unpleasant place to be, right? And how do you go from that? How do you go from waking up every day, not wanting to be alive, not wanting to, barely able to make it through the day without battling your own mind, battling your own addictions, battling your own mental health issues, unable to see the light at the end of the tunnel some days, just feeling stuck in a cycle, in that loop of feeling bad, of thinking bad, right? And then your actions, the way you're gonna act is gonna be toxic too, right? You're probably gonna pick toxic behaviors to deal with the unpleasant emotions that you have, the unpleasant thoughts that you have. So, what did I do? I made a choice. Well, first of all, being an alchemist, you do have to make some different choices, right? Because being an alchemist is turning something, you're basically transmuting something. You're transforming something, right? It's changing form, right? So, in order for something to change form, you have to make a different decision. You have to either think about something differently, you have to feel differently about something, then you have to act differently about something. You have to do something different. Otherwise, you're going to loop, you're creating the same thing, right? You're in the same pattern. And you're creating the same thing over and over again. So how do you really transmute something? You need to add something different in the mix. You need to see something from a different light, different perspective. You need to make it work for you. You need to make whatever happens in your life work for you. And so, what did I do? Yes, everything fell apart. Had darkness of the soul, right? Went through my drug addiction, very dark emotions, wanted to take my own life. I almost did. And then there's a lot that went into that. But see, I'm not even going to focus more on that. I'm going to focus more on what did I do with it. I felt this way. I got dealt with a lot of, sometimes you have to just make the most out of the hand that you're dealt. And you have to be able to see a vision beyond your current circumstances. If you can't even have a vision of something different for yourself, how are you going to manifest it? It all starts in the mind, right? All is mind, right? And then also the way you feel, right? That adds to it too. And even take inspired action, right? So it starts with thinking about something differently. You could look at this situation, for example. I was going through, pretty bad addiction, and just everything in my life fell apart. I know what I wanted to do. I had no purpose. My mind and my body were really damaged from all the substances that I put in it. And, I'm thankful today to be alive. I almost didn't make it out, right? So I had to think. I got to the point where I just had nothing else to lose. So I said, well, is it possible for me to have a different life? Yes. Could I see a vision, even though it was really dark all around me? Could I see a possible outcome in my mind? Could I create, even if that seems like a fantasy in your mind, the fact that you can visualize something different for yourself, the fact that you can even have a thought about something different in yourself, even dream about something different for yourself, that's where it begins. All is mine. So, even starting this channel, right? Even when I was going through my dark addiction stage, I knew I needed help. Everything was falling apart. Like, I had no money. All my friends I might say I lost my friends, but a lot of them didn't want to be around me anymore. My family almost wanted to kick me out, put me on the street. I had a guy I was dating. It didn't work out, right? And that didn't work out either. So I was at the point, and I just lost my job. But just everything went completely downhill really quick because I was not in alignment. My life was supposed to go in a different direction. I was meant to do something way greater, and I wasn't going to make it much longer. So I eventually had enough, right? Back up a minute on this one. Even during that time, I created my YouTube channel, Trailblazers of the Universe. Well, it's been almost a year and a half, close to 2 years now. Right? But 2 years before, you'll see I created that. If you look at my channel, I created 2019. Before I upload any content, I had a vision of what I was going to do with that. I knew I was in a dark place. I knew that I couldn't do it at the moment. I had a lot of healing to do. Wasn't in the right mind state. But I created that channel name. I reserved that because I knew I had a vision of it. I did have even if it was a slight vision in a dark space, a slight light in a dark place, I did have a vision for it. And that was enough. I at least created it. I let it sit there for almost 2 years, but during that time period when everything fell apart, I went to a holistic rehab, and I also made an episode on my holistic guide to wellness. I would check that out. That's my first episode I put on this podcast. I go in detail on how I heal myself. So I'm going to skip that part, but if you want to learn more about how I heal myself from a holistic standpoint, like from a mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual aspects, then definitely check that out. I go in pretty in detail on that. But basically, at this point, I became an alchemist, right? I had everything. My mental health was bad. My spirit, I felt like, was gone. I was emotionally messed up. Physically, I did a lot of damage to my body. So I knew it was going to take a lot to heal. I know the damage that I did. I was still pretty self-aware despite everything that happened. I knew what it was going to take to get back to a stable state. And I still made stuff work. I was working for a while. I was still getting I still get stuff done. That's how I've always been. But I felt really broken on the inside and just really destroyed on all levels. So finally, part of being an alchemist is surrendering. I surrendered. I said, hey, you know what? This is what it is. I'm not going to fantasy and pretending everything didn't happen. I'm not rejecting what happened. I'm not in denial. I finally accepted, you know what? You're taking responsibility. I'm taking responsibility for where I am in my life. I know I made decisions that led me there. First of all, just accepting. It doesn't mean you have to be happy with it, but it's just I'm accepting that's the decisions I made. That's where it led me. That's what happened, right? So, first of all, becoming an alchemist, you're accepting you're taking responsibility for the life that you created for yourself. We have choices, and I made choices that led there, right? So, when you accept, then it's easier to surrender. I said, you know what? I'm surrendering to a different way of looking at something, different way of feeling. Sometimes suffering is what drives us. It sucks that suffering has to drive us so much to change. Why can't we just change normally? But it drives a lot of people, right? So I eventually just said, so I surrendered, and I did go to holistic rehab where, I went healing done. I went there away for like 4 months, right? And it changed my life, right? And even though I was there, I didn't want to be there. My brain, my body didn't feel good. Emotionally, I felt messed up. I had really low self-worth at the time. I didn't value myself. I did a lot of behaviors during my addiction that, I wasn't proud of, or just, really beats you up on all levels, right? So I finally surrendered. I just said, I am where I am, and I was like, I'm going to make the most out of this. That's when I started really to alchemize, be an alchemist in my life. I went to that rehab place, and, I even brought a notebook. I was like, you know what? Let me come up with some ideas for my YouTube channel. When I get out, I would like to start making some content, right? And how can I help people? I can use this to help people instead of being a victim and woe is me, all this stuff happened to me, right? I became an alchemist, right? So I was there. I learned the most I could. A lot of people there are miserable, rehab, and I understand. But, I was like, I had nothing else to lose. Once you hit rock bottom sometimes, there's nowhere to go but up, right? So, yes, you could always go lower if you want, but I didn't want to do that. So I know I had a bigger purpose, and I did feel good when I helped people. And I did when I connected more to my spirituality and stuff. I did have a glimpse of hope sometimes. And things will work out for me. When I started to make decisions that are more in alignment with where my life is supposed to go, things just started to fall into place, right? I had to wait on a wait list for like a month, miserable, waiting to get to this rehab place. But when I got there, I participated in the classes. I helped other people. I even taught like a meditation class there, which was pretty cool that they asked me to because I participated. I was like, I'm going to get the most out of it. And it was a very good opportunity, actually. It wasn't, what I learned there was things I could learn for like my life, that could really propel me. It's a way of life. It was a holistic style of rehab, So we did things to improve your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical state, right? Because everything's connected. So I learned a new way of living. And I had done a lot of research before, I was trying to heal, even during my addiction. I was trying to do meditation. I was trying to find ways to heal. So it's not like I wasn't trying to do any work. I was just really in a loop of my addiction before, So it was hard to get any major progress. I had to go away. I had to isolate and cut everybody off. Well, basically a lot of people cut me off because I was pretty bad, right? But I had to go away and just really be with myself. I did a lot of shadow work during that time. shadow work. I'll make an episode on that. But basically, sitting with my shadow, I didn't. The substances were gone. I didn't have guys, right? I didn't have all my coping mechanisms. We couldn't even use our phone until like on the weekends, or like a lot of the technology. A lot of the things you weren't able to do right away. Until a certain amount of time after you've been there. So all of my coping mechanisms, even all the sugar I would eat and stuff, was all gone. So I had to just sit with my shadow. I had to sit with myself and face myself. And we did some deep therapy. There was group stuff. There was intense individual therapy. There's even things to help with trauma and stuff. There's a lot. We went deep into even anger and family issues. I had a lot of issues with family. And I'll mention something with that later. But did a lot of deep work. Now, was the work done? No. There are levels to healing. There are levels to awakening, right? But I had done a lot of work at that time. So I finally made the most of it. I was meditating when I was there. I was exercising. I was eating healthier, feeling better. I mean, it took a while, I did a lot of damage to my mind, body, and soul, right? But I was making the most out of the situation. I was being an alchemist. I could have sat there and been miserable the whole time I was there and not got anything out of it, but I said, I'm going to do something about it. I said, I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to help other people too. And it was thinking outside of myself too, I think that was a big thing. So I went there, and then I got out, and what was I going to say? So once I started to get out, once I got out, I had to go back my parents' house, which I, wasn't really ideal at the time, but you know what? I at least had a place to live. I started to be thankful for what I did have. I was very thankful I was able to go away for 4 months for free. I didn't even have to pay it. The universe really opened up a good opportunity for me. I learned a new way of life, and the work wasn't done, but I got a good basic foundation. I was able to do that without working the matrix job. I had a toxic matrix job I was working at before. I call them matrix jobs. I mean, that's what they are, guys. And I still work one right now, but the one I have right now is a lot healthier and better for me because I did a lot of work on myself, so I attracted a job that was healthier, while I can still work on my content, right? So when I got out, I had nothing else to lose, right? I wasn't 100%, but I was a lot better than I was, and I was thankful for the experience I did have. And, I started to make the most of it. I started to alchemize that. All of those emotions I had that I suppressed with my addiction, all that pain I felt, and then I learned how to transmute it, right? Then I started channeling, then I started making the YouTube videos. I joined this full-time purpose group, which Aaron Dowdy and Victor Odo were part of, right? And there's other people in it, and I even tried getting another job right after, and they let me go. It didn't work out. It was like a financial job. It wasn't really something I liked. I tried something different, right? And then I was like, man, I don't know where my life's going. I even tried rekindling an old relationship that wasn't really resonating. I had nothing to do, so I joined this challenge, right? I was like, I have nothing else to lose. I kind of just surrendered and said, oh, well, I'm just going to go with the flow and try something different. And I knew that all the experiences I had were for something. All the pain I felt, everything had a purpose, right? It wasn't just for nothing. I knew I was supposed to help people, and I always was interested in psychology. I always wanted to be a therapist. I went to college. I studied management information systems, but my dad just paid for it at the time, right? But I actually wanted to be a psychologist, so I always had an interest in helping people, and I was very self-aware, and I was able to understand people very well. I still am an empath, and so I kind of just combined all these things together. I said, I have nothing else to lose. Let me start a YouTube channel. So that Trailblazers of the Universe channel I started, that I created 2 years ago, I finally was able to go in there and upload some videos. And it wasn't comfortable at first, being on camera, especially after being in addiction, not feeling comfortable in my own body, not feeling comfortable with myself. But I did a lot of work, and with practice, it became normal, right? And I channeled all this energy I had, all these emotions that I had, channeled into making content to help people. That's one example of being an alchemist, right? I just started to help people. I just transmuted all that negative, you gotta think all that energy, emotion, right? That's very powerful emotions. Even going through some of the grief I went, grief for my old self, grief for friends that passed away, trauma that I had, different kinds of trauma. All these things provide you strong emotions, and you can use strong emotions can be used to drive you. A lot of people right? A lot of people that have been through a lot in their life, even people that are famous, right? I don't want to idolize celebrities or anything, but any role model that you look up to, people that have had a hard past, a lot of them alchemize it. They write a book, they help people, they inspire people, right? Those are the kind of people I'm talking about. They're alchemists. They use their pain. Some of those people have been through really dark spaces, a lot of trauma, and instead of being a victim, those people use that to empower them. It drives them. Some of them are even in a bad living situation, a bad situation in general, right? Even something that's abusive, right? And they use that and they get out of it. Some of them, you even hear about that with singers, with speakers, different kinds of artists, The most powerful people, people that have the most impact usually have had the roughest past. So, if you're someone that's been through a lot of trauma, a lot of people have been traumatized at this point at some level, but there are different levels, right? But whatever you've been through, you can use it to empower you. You can use it to help people, And part of the consciousness shift that's going on the planet is out of fear and into love frequency, right? It's out of the ego, right, and into the heart space, right? So it's coming from, when you do things from the heart, when you've been through that much pain in your heart, you can use that to help people, inspire people. You can connect with people and understand people's pain. That's very powerful. If you're an empath, you're already a natural born alchemist. If you're an empath, if you can feel the emotions of other people, you can even alchemize other people's emotions. You feel it, and you can use that to drive you. Use that to help people, And, even recently, my mom had ended her life back in August. I've been doing content for a little while now, year and a half, and it's, I really alchemized a lot of that. And that was another thing. That was another trauma that happened to me. And I could be a victim of that. I could have easily gone back in my old addiction and my old behaviors, right? I could let that really break me, and but I allowed myself to feel the emotions, and then I'm using it to empower me. I'm making more content to help people, and now I want to help people that have gone through grief like I have. I want to help people that struggle with mental health, because my mom's got to a point where she couldn't, her mental health really got to her, and look how she ended up, So now I'm using that. Okay, well, now I understand that pain. And as an empath, I felt my mom's pain throughout her whole life. It wasn't even a surprise that it happened. Sad to say, because I'm an empath, I pick up on a lot. But I think the big thing with being an alchemist of your life is also feeling your emotions. You can't alchemize it if you can't feel it. You need to feel the emotion, and you let it empower you, let it drive you, right? Let it inspire you. Let it move through you. Channel it into something. Channel it into art. Channel it into dance. Channel it into content creation. Channel it into singing, right? Channel it into, some people they exercise, and just a healthier activity. It just channeling into something that you're passionate about. I don't know what it is. It's different for everybody, right? So that's another way. I think Alchemist is also, usually, I think of it, for me, it's more of an expression. I'm using this emotion, I'm expressing it in a different way. It wants to be expressed. Instead of me suppressing it, I'm expressing it. And the big way of healing, you have to heal it to feel it, right? You've heard that quote before. So I just want you to think today, if you've been through some bad experiences, you're not sure where your life's going, you feel stuck, we've all been through very intense emotions. We've all been through some kinds of trauma, but it's a choice every day. Are you going to let it, are you going to be a victim and let it disempower you, or are you going to let it empower you? So just think about that. And how do you want to live your life, I mean, you can make it work for you, or you could make it work against you. Some people spend their whole life a victim. Some people spend their whole life not living up to their potential. They're still a victim of their circumstances. But if you can see a vision beyond your current circumstances, and you can feel the emotions, and you can alchemize them, you can transmute them into something to empower you, something to help others, I mean, we're only here for a temporary time on this planet, so it's up to you. What do you want to do with it, It's okay to feel grief. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel the way you do. I think that's the biggest thing in our society. We're programmed to not it's not okay the way I feel. I have to feel good all the time. No, actually, a real alchemist is someone that can literally feel. They can go to the depths, the bottom of the pit, a bottomless pit, go from really dark space and transmute it in to make it work for them. How many times have someone had a really bad past, traumatic past, right? And through that, because they experienced that, they found their life purpose. Maybe it was helping people. Maybe they became a speaker, and they use their voice to inspire people, to help others, or just let it be a driving force in your life. It can drive you to do something positive. It is, even my mom ending her life, I actually learned a lot. I chose to actually learn a lot from it. Sometimes it's also just the way you're looking at something, what you're learning from it, instead of letting it destroy you. It's okay if it does for a little bit, but eventually, you're going to make a choice, like, how much longer am I going to let this affect me? For instance, my mom, she's gone. So, she would want me to live a better life. I instead of me being a victim and going back into bad habits and stuff, I said, you know what? I'm going to live the life that she couldn't live. I'm going to learn from this. Now I have a deeper understanding for people that have really bad depression and are, thinking of unaliving themselves, right? How can I help these people? How can I reach these people? It made me have actually a spiritual awakening. I've had many spiritual awakenings, but there's levels to it, right? So this really helped me wake up, and I saw the things that burdened her that she couldn't get out of, right, mentally. And I was like, man, I never want to end up like that. And I was like, and I actually learned a lot. A lot of that stuff's passed down, right? They call it generational trauma, ancestral trauma, right? It goes down in your family, And I said, I'm going to be the one to break these patterns. I don't want to end up like that. I'm glad she's at peace now. I have a different perspective. I'm still grieving. I'm not saying I'm over it, but I'm using it to teach me something and appreciate the experience I did have, right? And kind of let it empower me. And now I have a deeper understanding. As an empath, an even deeper understanding of how people's emotions can affect them, how they can get stuck in their head and not feel like there's a way out so much that they have to do behaviors like that, take themselves out, I feel like I can reach more people, my content. I feel like I can really speak to people on a deeper level. And especially going through my addiction myself, right? And the mental health issues I went through. I used to be on and off medications. Now I'm not on any, by the way, which I'm be with. But I understand because I went there. I went to the rock bottom. I went to the deepest, darkest parts of my soul, right? The void and the dark night of the soul, right? And using that to help people and understand people on a deeper level. That's just an example of how I became an alchemist in my life. And the good thing is, if you've been through a lot of trauma, you've been through a lot of really negative experiences, really unpleasant, that really tore apart your heart, your soul, you'll become a very strong person. And I've used all these experiences to make me stronger. I use these experiences to give me discernment. I know, after going down those dark paths, I know what's going to lead me back there again. I know how to make better choices. And because I went there, it really developed my discernment. And now I can help other people too. I can see things before they happen. I've been around a little bit to know when, maybe even people that aren't good for me, I've improved my intuition and everything, right? So some of these experiences can help you. Another way of being an alchemist is letting it develop your discernment, letting it develop your intuition, letting it just more self, or even just being aware. Awareness is the key to change. If even if you're just being more aware of your behaviors and then choosing to do something different, that's also another way, right? So these are just different ways of being an alchemist of your life. So I just food for thought. I always like to give some kind of assignment or something to think about or work on. So whatever happens to you today, I don't care how quote unquote bad or good it is. I don't even like to use those labels, It is what you make it. I know whatever happens to me today, I wake up with the attitude like, all right, whatever happens, first of all, it probably can't be worse than a lot of the stuff I experienced, knock on wood. But how can I make the most of this? Whatever happens, whatever life's going to throw at me, you got to make lemonade out of lemons, right? So how can I make the most of this? Maybe this is going to teach whatever happens to you today. I want you to think, how to start to become an alchemist in your life. I want you to think, how can this help me in some way? How can this, or what is this trying to teach me? I think the biggest thing is learning the lessons, right? If you can learn a lesson from any experience you had, you've already become an alchemist, no matter how bad it might seem. If you learn from it and you're going to make a better decision next time and improve your life and be closer to being your best version, and even on your life purpose path, you're doing better than you think, and that's part of it. Or whatever happened to you, how could this be working out for me the other way? There's a silver lining, right? Even like I said about me going to the rehab, about even losing the job that sucked anyway. Toxic people, losing that toxic relationship, was that really a loss? It's all about how you look at it. That actually did teach me more about myself, that I wasn't valuing myself, that I wasn't taking care of myself, that I wasn't making choices that were in line with my higher self. I was going the wrong direction. I needed everything to crash so better things come together, right? So if things are falling apart in your life, things are going downhill, you need to really have some self-reflection and say, what is this trying to teach me? Is this maybe my life's not supposed to go in this direction? And sometimes it can take you another direction that is at least going to take you closer to where you're supposed to go, right? Closer to your life purpose. Maybe this is all teaching you skills to step into your purpose and do what you're meant here to do on the planet. We aren't just meant to come on this planet and go to work and sleep and then eat, right? Go through a cycle and make some money and then die, right? You're here for a purpose. So your darkest experiences and the struggles you have most likely are something that's going to be related to your life purpose, or that's going to help you really develop, maybe help others, or that can turn into passion too. Even your struggles and stuff, things you struggle with, you could channel into something you're passionate about, right? Like I said about channeling that energy into dance, into singing, into making content, into making art, anything like that, right? So think about it that way. What I'm going through now is going to pass. And when I look at this, what happened a year later, whatever, maybe this taught me something. Maybe this going through this dark path, going through these struggles are what's going to lead me to where I'm supposed to go in my life. So that's all. It's my little spiel on being an alchemist of your life. Might make a part 2 to this, but choose to be an alchemist and not a victim. It is whatever is happen. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. If it isn't about life, isn't about what happens to you. It's about what you make of it. So be an alchemist of your life today. So I'm signing off. Trailblazers of the Universe podcast. Make sure to give me a follow and like and a 5-star rating if applicable. I'm on multiple platforms right now, all major podcast platforms. And feel free to share if this resonates. And if you want to help someone become an alchemist as well, there might be someone that needs to hear this. Have a good day, everybody. Namaste.